Hi, today I have a special surprise for you. How many of you have a special food that you really like and enjoy that your grandmother makes for you or that your mother makes for you? I have a special recipe here today that my mom sent me, which is in my grandmother's handwriting. And it's an apple crisp recipe that I just love. And it's special because it's in my grandma's handwriting because she isn't with me anymore. But seeing her writing and thinking about this delicious apple crisp that she used to make for me makes me really happy at this time of year when everybody's making things with apples and going to the apple orchard. So the book today is called Thank You, Amu. And Amu is a word that is Igbo, which is a Nigerian language, and it's a term for queen. But for our author of the book that I chose today, Oge Mora, she called her grandmother the name Amu. And when you hear the word Amu in this story, you can think of your grandmother, or the author that when she was creating this book was thinking of her grandmother when she was writing it. So let's read Thank You, Amu by Age Mora. And as we're reading, I want you to notice these pictures. They were also created by the author. She's the author and the illustrator, Age Mora, and she used old books to create collages and other paper colors. And you can see where those old books are in these images because you'll see words printed on them as part of the background and the scenery in the books. If you can notice those as we're reading. On the corner of First Street and Long Street, on the very top floor, Amu was cooking a thick red stew in a big fat pot for a nice evening meal. She seasoned it and stirred it and took a small taste. What a delicious stew, Amu said. Tonight's dinner will surely be the best I have ever had. With that, Amu put her spoon and went to read a book before supper. As the thick red stew simmered on the stove, its scrumptious smell wafted out the window and out the door, down the hall toward the street and around the block until, knock, someone was at the door. When Amu opened it, she saw. Who do you think she sees? Does anyone have a prediction about who's going to be at the door? A little boy, you got it. Little boy, Amu exclaimed. What brings you to my house? I was playing with my race car down the hall when I smelled the most delicious smell, the little boy replied. What is it? Thick red stew. Stew, he sighed. That sure sounds yummy. It's a thick red stew. What do you think is in the stew that makes it red? I think you know. That's a good guess. Amu thought for a moment. She was saving her stew for dinner, but she had quite a bit. It would not hurt to share. Would you like some? The little boy nodded. And so Amu spooned out some thick red stew from her big fat pot for her nice evening meal. Thank you, Amu, the little boy said, and went on his way. She looks happy and he looks happy, don't they? With that, Amu closed the door and went back to her book. As she read, her thick red stew's scrumptious scent wafted out the window and out the door, down the hall, toward the street, and around the block until, what do you think wafted out the door? Out the window. What is wafted? Yes, it's when it floats on the breeze out into the air. Oh, someone was at the door. When Amu opened the door, this time she saw, who do you think? You guessed it. A police officer. Miss Police Officer, Amu exclaimed. What brings you to my home? I was on duty down the street when I smelled the most, who knows, delicious smell. Miss Police Officer replied, "What is it?" What is it, everybody? Say it with me. Thick red stew. Ah, stew, she said, and her mouth watered. That sounds mighty tasty. Amu thought for a moment. There was still enough to share. Would you like some? The police officer nodded. Once again, Amu spooned out some thick red stew from the big fat pot for her nice evening meal. Thank you, Amu, the officer said, and went on her way. I think you can read it with me on some parts, can't you? And so for the second time, Amu closed the door and went back to her book. And sure enough, as she read, her thick red stew's scrumptious scent wafted out the door and out the window, down the hall, toward the street, around the block, until again someone was at Amu's door. This time, when she opened it, she saw, who did she see? Do you notice how there's some collage pieces here of cut up books on the sidewalk and the construction guys? Who's at the door? You guessed it. The hot dog vendor. That's right. Ah, Mr. Hot Dog Vendor, Amu exclaimed. What brings you to my home? I was selling my hot dogs down the block when I smelled the most delicious smell. Mr. Hot Dog Vendor replied. What is it? Thick red stew. Oh, stew. The vendor licked his lips. That sounds quite delectable. What's delectable? You think you can guess what delectable is? Do you think he likes the smell or doesn't like the smell? Let's see. Well, he's smiling at the smell, isn't he? And these are all collage pieces cut out and put out to make the shapes of the faces. So Amu spooned out some thick red stew from the big fat pot for her nice evening meal. Thank you, Amu, the hot dog vendor said, and went on his way. Throughout the day, people from all across the neighborhood knocked on Amu's door. She fed a shop owner, a cab driver, a doctor, an actor, a lawyer, a dancer, a baker, an artist, a singer, an athlete, a bus driver, a construction worker. Even the mayor stopped by. She surely made a lot of stew, didn't she? And each time they knocked, Amu shared. She's a good sharer. Soon the sky darkened, the streetlights brightened, and it was finally time for dinner. Uh-oh. But when Amu opened her big fat pot of thick red stew for her nice evening meal, it was empty. Uh-oh. Look at Amu's face. How does she feel? Not good, is it? She sniffed. There goes the best dinner I ever had. Sorry and blue, she sat at the table with her empty pot until lots of knocks. Who could that be? Amu wondered. When she opened her door, she saw the little boy, the police officer, the hot dog vendor, the shop owner, the cab driver, the doctor, the actor, the lawyer, the dancer, the baker. Why, everyone she fed today was at her door. I'm sorry, everyone, Amu sighed. My thick red stew is all gone. I have nothing left to share. The little boy tugged at Amu's sleeve. Don't worry, Amu. We're not here to ask. We are here to give. The police officer carried in a fresh salad. The mayor entered with a roast chicken. The baker brought a collection of sweet goodies. Even the little boy presented Amu with something special in a shiny red envelope. Everyone who had knocked on Amu's door that day squeezed inside her tiny apartment, and together they ate, they danced, and celebrated. While Amu's big fat pot of thick red stew was empty, her heart was full of happiness and love. The dinner was the best she had ever had. Thank you, Amu. Which means, what does the word Amu mean? Is another way of saying queen, or like Age Mora said, her grandma was known as Amu. So now what we're going to do with our minds are full of all the good foods that our grandmas have made for us. I would like you to make a collage of your own, much like the collages that we saw in our book. We're going to cut out pieces of, we can use newspaper or magazines that I found, and we're going to use our glue sticks and put them together on a page. And our collage is going to be a picture of one of the foods that you really like, that maybe your grandmother makes for you or someone special in your family makes for you. So let's get started on our collages.